Hey guys, so today we're going to go over how to determine the midpoint of any line segment. Here we're starting with our standard graph of a simple line segment on the coordinate plane. And in terms of vocabulary, you always want to remember that the midpoint is always going to be the halfway point between any 2 points on the coordinate plane. So just like the distance formula, there's pretty much 2 ways of solving for the midpoint. First way we're going to go over is how to use the graph, and second way is how to use the coordinate points. So just like the distance formula, if you're using the graph, you want to start off by drawing a right triangle. So let's add that vertical and horizontal side. Okay, and let's just put a point there. So because the midpoint is the halfway point, we just want to take half of we just want to go halfway from the left point to the right point. So I know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know the total distance is 6, and half of that is going to be 3 units in. So 1, 2, 3. This point is going to represent my x-coordinate. This turns out to be 6. Now, applying the same idea to the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Half of 8 is going to be 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. This point here is going to be that. So that ends up being 6 here. So it turns out that our midpoint on this line segment is going to be the coordinate 6, 6. Okay, great. So using the graph definitely required no work here, like the distance formula required the Pythagorean theorem, but definitely the work stayed on the graph. So let's say we're in a situation where the points don't meet up as nicely as this. These were both whole numbers. Let's say the midpoint was somewhere above here or above here. You know, that means we're dealing with coordinates that are decimals. So how can we use the coordinates of these endpoints to help us figure out the actual midpoint of it? Well, let's first start by identifying the coordinates of the endpoints. So here we have 3, 2, and then here we have 9, 10 as our coordinate points. Okay, great. So how can we use, oh yes, and let's also identify that third point as well. So this is going to be 9, 2 as well. Okay, so how can we use the combination of these x points and y points to help us figure out the midpoint? Well, I know that whatever I found here, I divided by 2, so I'm going to be dividing something by 2. So this is when we can reflect back to our middle school knowledge, is that when we're looking for the halfway point of things, we're looking for the average of it. The average or the mean back in middle school pretty much identified that middle point in some set of numbers. So we're going to take the averages of the x values and the y values. So let's take the average of the x's. So if we write that here, if we're going to take the average of the x, that's going to be 9 plus 3 divided by 2. 9 plus 3 is 12 divided by 2. That gives us 6. And that's the exact 6 that we have for this coordinate point. Alright, let's try that again with the y's. So here we have 10 and 2. Well, 10 plus 2 over 2. That gives us 12 over 2, and again that's 6. So our x and y coordinate for the midpoint is 6, 6, just like we have on the actual graph. Now, how can we write that with just general expressions? Well, let's start labeling each of the coordinates. We have x1 here, y1 here, we have x2 here, y2 here, and then this again is going to be x2, and this is going to be y1, just like how it was set up in the distance formula problem. So now we can set up our general formula, which is going to be the following. So we did 9 plus 3, so that was x2 plus x1 over 2 to represent the midpoint for along the x-axis, and then for the y, it was y2, that 10, plus 2 from the y1 divided by 2, and that gives us our midpoint along the y-axis. So the midpoint formula actually ends up being the following. It's going to be midpoint, I'm going to shorthand that, and it's just going to be x2 plus x1 over 2, comma y2 plus y1 over 2. And this is the exact formula that you'll see if you search up online. This is the formula that is recommended when you're solving for this algebraically. If you, and this is a good thing to really observe your points, if you see that you can just use the graph to find the midpoint, don't even bother with going through this route. Just simply use that one. It will save a lot of time, especially if you're taking a timed exam. But that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or concerns, or comments, just leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. Feel free to ask me to go over any topics or any elaboration of this topic if you want to. And that's pretty much it. Have a good day. Bye.